One thing you'll realize you probably should have if you're going to create many wonderful pieces of wood art is that you'll need a drying house. If you are in a space and budget bind like I was when my shop was coming together, I hope this helps. As always, this video is a shortened version of my blog post on how to build a drying house on a budget. Check the link in the description to see the whole post. We headed to the closest hardware store and I priced out 1/2-inch PVC pipe and fittings. It came to about $31. Since everything I could find pointed to $100 or more for a pre-done drying rack, I made the choice to do it. Honestly, when you're starting a business, you have to play it safe. If you can take extra time to save yourself hundreds of dollars, you should take that time. Always know that in a few years, you could purchase the items of your dreams when your cash flow isn't quite so minuscule. We measured, marked, measured again, and began cutting up the pipe. After finishing up on the cutting, we attached all the fittings and joints to their proper lengths of pipe. Using my trusty rubber mallet, we braced the frame on the floor and tapped each fitting so that the pipes were fully seated in the joints, creating a perfectly uniform drying house. Remember, I'm working on a budget. With that said, I went about $15 over my initial drying house budget. It was worth it though. Let me explain. I needed to pick up a medium to heavy duty tarp that was at least 16 by 10, some copper wire, super Gorilla Tape, and some Velcro. Before attaching the tarp, I wanted to lay out some wire that I could adjust on the inside of the drying house. Sometimes I work with small rounds and I wanted to have a space that could acquire them without having to pay more money for more pipe braces. So I went with some copper wire. I know most people would have went with good old duct tape, but I wanted a super seal. Research said that the Gorilla Tape adhered and sealed both smooth and uneven surfaces, so I decided to go with the brand Gorilla Glue. I love how it worked too. It taped up like a dream and hasn't budged since. 5 glowing stars for Gorilla Tape. My biggest worry was what to use to seal the door of my drying house. Buttons would leave too much air and ties wouldn't keep it tight enough. Velcro was both my first and last resort. It's expensive when needed in bulk, and if dirt gets trapped in the fabric, every time I open the door it would re-aerate, giving me a textured varnish when I want silky smooth. Alas, Velcro was my only option, and so I went for it. I have been pleasantly surprised at how well it's kept clean. Granted, I do blow it off every few weeks just to keep on top of it. We got the drying house covered and taped, and it's been a dream come true. I wanted a smaller version of a drying rack, which is why I built it to sit on a table. I couldn't be more happy with how it turned out, and I would suggest building one to anyone who needs a dust-free space for drying art pieces. My drying house came to cost me about $61 total. That includes all the materials I bought. All in all, I would say that's a lot better than throwing a couple $100s or more into a drying rack, especially if you cannot afford $150+ during your first year or so of business. Plus, you get the satisfaction of completing a project, especially in my own case. I don't plan on this being my shop for more than a year or two. For me to invest in something so expensive that I would have to move eventually is hard to justify in my current predicament. But for now, I couldn't be happier with my little drying house. If you decide to make one of your own, let me know what your ideas were. Improvements can always be made. Thanks for checking the video, and remember at Schaedings.com you can see wood art pieces I have for sale.